Make me mute you. Sharonville City Council. I'm going to ask everyone to please rise. And Mr. Schmidt is going to do our prayer this evening. And then afterwards, some of my veterans are going to start us off in the Pledge of Allegiance and thank all the veterans tonight.
Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us this evening as we meet to discuss Sharonville. Tonight, we especially want to thank all the veterans as we approach Veterans Day tomorrow. Thank them for all the services that they have given to us, all the sacrifices that they have made so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we celebrate so much today. May we always remember them and always respect them for their great sacrifice and duties. God bless America. God bless the men and women who serve our country and stand vigilant for us. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. You can be seated. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Lippert?
Here.
Mr. Judah?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Knight? Here. And Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Approval of the minutes for the October 27th regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, those are approved by and as distributed. We are going to have a late delivery of resolution 2020 R26. Is there a motion to accept this late delivery? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mrs. Knight. Any discussion? All those in favor, yes. Those opposed, no. And we will accept late delivery of resolution 2020 R26. Mrs. Buhite, we're going to move this up to now. If you would please read that.
Okay. This is a first and only reading of Resolution 2020 R26. Resolution honoring the Paul H. Vale VFW post in the city of Sharonville and declaring Veterans Day 2020 Paul H. Vale VFW post day in the city of Sharonville. Long version. Okay. Whereas the Veterans of Foreign Wars, formerly the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, is an organization of United States military veterans who fought in wars, campaigns, and expeditions on foreign lands, waters, or airspace. And whereas Sharonville resident Paul H. Vale served in the United States Army during World War II with the rank of private, and whereas Private Vale was declared missing in action during combat action in Bataan, Philippines in 1942, and later declared killed in action. Excuse me. And whereas in October 1945, the Sharonville VFW Post 4369, named the Paul Vale VFW Post, began their mission described as follows: to foster camaraderie among United States veterans of overseas conflicts, to serve our veterans, the military, and our communities, and to advocate on behalf of all military veterans. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, the city Council of the City of Sharonville hereby honors the Paul H. Vale VFW Post on their 75th anniversary on behalf of the citizens of the City of Sharonville. Section 2, Veterans Day, which occurs on Wednesday, November 11th, 2020, is hereby declared the Paul H. Vale VFW Post Day in the City of Sharonville.
Thank you. Is there a motion to pass Resolution 2020-R26? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-R26 has been approved.
Thank you. Mayor, we're going to communications now. Is your thing not working?
There it is. Okay. And I'm going to sign that resolution so it actually passes. So,
Yes.
so I'm going to sign that tonight as well. So thank you all for doing that. I have lots of stuff to share tonight, but first of all, there's a group of individuals here that we want to recognize. And I see Principal Superintendent Tom Burton's here, High School Principal Ron Bulmer. Is it Miss McCowan? Is that right? Yep, she's here. And she's probably the main reason why we're want to recognize these students that I think are surrounding her as well. Why don't you guys come on up, if you don't mind. Come on up, all of our Princeton folks that are here tonight. So many of you who are or have had the opportunity to attend one of the business leaders meetings with the Princeton School District that they've had over the years. I've had the pleasure of seeing some of these students that are part of the DECA program over at Princeton High School. It's a fantastic opportunity for these kids to learn some leadership skills, and they're actually competitions that they attend, that they go to. And so I've got a little proclamation here that reads as follows. So, whereas DECA prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs, I'm terrible at that word, but I think I did it all right, for careers in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management in high schools and colleges around the globe. And whereas Princeton High School's DECA program has been in existence since 2017 and in partnership with Great Oaks Career Campuses. And whereas Princeton currently has 74 student members who may attend competitions on the local, district, and state levels. And whereas during the 2019-2020 school year, 11 students qualified to attend the state competition, with six placing in the top 10 of their event. And whereas Princeton DECA members are also leaders throughout the school district in student council, National Honor Society, Key Club, various athletic teams, orchestra, band, and choir. Because of all of those reasons, therefore, I, as mayor of the city of Sharonville, are proclaiming today, Tuesday, November 10th, 2020, as Princeton DECA Day in the city of Sharonville. Congratulations. Here with me, if you don't mind for a minute. I know there's folks with cameras. They're going to want to get pictures. We got to do all this social distancing stuff too, so we got to keep on top of that. So, all you guys come on up here. And you guys are going to talk and introduce yourself. I'm going to deal with that. All in here. If you want to grab on that side, we'll get some pictures here. So if you guys don't mind, if you could just take a moment and share with the council a little bit about DECA and introduce these two young fine folks that are here. Come on up here so everybody can hear.
My name is Rebecca McCowan, and I'm the business teacher at Princeton High School and also the DECA advisor. And Mayor Hardman did an excellent job describing what DECA is. It's a marketing club for our business students. It's a worldwide program, actually, and I'm really proud of all the accomplishments of my students in the last 4 years. These guys have really helped build the program. We started it from scratch at Princeton in 2017, and I really attribute all of our accomplishments to their efforts and their hard work. I have two really amazing representatives with me tonight. Jordan Robinson is a senior. He's taken business classes all 4 years of high school and been an extremely active member of DECA for the last 3 years, held several leadership positions, and he's always one of the first to volunteer when we're doing anything, one of the first to show up and the last to leave. And as you know, those are some excellent leadership qualities. And I also have Denisa Bruton. She's a sophomore. She's taken 2 years of business classes and been active in DECA those 2 years. And I should say, Jordan was one of those 6 who placed in the top 10 in his event at state earlier this year. And Denisa is working hard to get there herself. I don't know if you're here.
Excellent. Jordan, tell us a little bit about the event that you participated in, that you came in the top 10.
Well, my category was in apparel and accessories. And basically, I was given a task to think about like what sort of products would do better than others and how we could promote the product that most people would like better. And they give us 10 minutes or so to think about the what we're going to do for the situation, how we're going to present it to the either manager or like someone who wants to endorse our product. So yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed the opportunity. I met so many nice people, and I had a really fun doing the experience with everyone. Yeah, it was really cool.
Denisa, is that right? Anything you want to share with us, Denisa, about your work with the DECA program?
Yeah, that's okay. Public speaking is very hard.
Well,
Just being there is good.
Thank you for coming out tonight. It's our pleasure to be able to recognize you and the great work that Princeton does in order to prepare these young people. DECA is just another one of the many opportunities that I know our fabulous school district has in order to prepare our kids for life beyond high school, whether that's college, whether that's workforce, whether that's military, wherever it is that you lead us. I know that we have a school district that prepares us well. Did I speak well enough for that, Tom? Did I do a good job? So thank you all for coming out tonight. You're welcome to stick around and watch the rest of the meeting, but it's completely up to you if you want to take off too. But thank you all for coming out. And
Thank you for having me.
congratulations on DECA Day. How's
Thank
that?
you.
And just to follow up, it's great to see so many of our VFW members here tonight. Obviously, one of the things only celebrating them tomorrow, but tomorrow is also Veterans Day. And, you know, due to obviously COVID and things that have changed as far as schooling, normally the elementary school is the one that leads a wonderful Veterans Day program. Starts down at the elementary school. They make their way down to Patriot Point for a smaller ceremony later in the afternoon. So that's being modified a little bit. However, at 2:15 tomorrow afternoon, there will be a small group of school kids from Sharonville Elementary that are going to be coming down to Patriot Point to present a wreath at Patriot Point in honor of Veterans Day. They've asked me to be there, so I'll be there to help receive that. But obviously, if you want to be there at 2:15 tomorrow afternoon, you're welcome to be there. Obviously, any of our VFW members who are here tonight, if you want to, or auxiliary members who are here tonight, if you have the opportunity tomorrow afternoon and want to spread that word, obviously it's always nice. I think those kids always enjoy seeing veterans and being able to give thanks on Veterans Day. There have been some questions that have come through this past week because, as we mentioned, I think last meeting, the aggregation program has started back up. Not started back up, but the new cycle of the electric portion of our aggregation program. Those letters went out to residents who are currently either Duke Energy customers or under our current aggregation program. So those letters should have received, I know I received mine, I know many others received those. They should have probably come to your mail over the last week. Just give I mean, obviously it's been a while since this went to the voters as far as an aggregation program. So I would encourage any of you, when you get those calls, to kind of share with your constituents what this is about. Obviously, for years and years and decades, for that matter, you were told Duke Energy is the person that's going to provide your electric and gas, right? Didn't have a choice. That's how it was going to be. That changed with deregulation, and now you can go out and you get your electric and gas from anybody you want. What also went into effect was the ability for municipalities like us, as well as other townships, I think almost all governmental entities, have the ability to say, instead of Duke being the default electric or gas provider for a city, we're going to go out and we're going to shop the marketplace for our residents and for our small businesses and see if we can't get a better rate than what Duke offers them and still have a reliable entity to do it. So we did that. We've been doing that since 2012 was when we started it. It was taken to the voters. The voters approved it in order to do that. So as a result, every 2 years, once a contract is up for electric, and then same thing with gas, they're on different time frames. We use our contractor, goes out, shops the market, tries to find the best price for electric currently, gas when gas comes up, and says this is going to be the default supplier for Sharonville residents and small businesses. And we've been very successful at getting rates much lower than what Duke Energy provides. However, you as residents of Sharonville, as part of the program, can say, great, thanks Sharonville, but I don't want it, I want to stay with Duke. And so that's what those letters are right now. So this is your opportunity. If you don't want what Sharonville has shopped and searched for, great. You want to stay with Duke, send that card in. If you're currently with Duke, you're going to get a second opportunity to turn it down as well, because Duke is going to say, before they switch you over, are you sure you want to do this? Excuse me. So be on the lookout for that. And that's how that aggregation program works. I think it's been very successful for our city, for our residents, for our small businesses. It's leveraging the buying power that they have in order to get a better rate than what they can in the market themselves. So it's worked very well for us. Thank you for those who had the opportunity to visit the Cornell Road Fire Station this evening. It's great what they've done down there. It's a you know, from the outside you can see how great it is, but the inside is significantly different than what it has been for a long time. They'll be able to move in there once they get the water pressure to a pressure that they can actually use the water in the building. So hopefully they'll start moving in here very soon. The Hamilton County Municipal League, of which I am the president and board member of, met this morning. And one of the issues that we took up at that point was the need to advocate on behalf of all of our cities and villages with regard to two issues that are very pressing before the State House right now. One of those issues is back when the pandemic started, the State House granted cities, villages the opportunities to meet virtually so that we could continue to meet as a body, a public body, and do it safely. Obviously, we've come back into in-person meetings. Many municipalities haven't. However, as you've seen, we have at least one member of council who's voting remotely, as well as our auditor who's remote as well tonight because of that opportunity. That legislation actually runs out on December the 1st. So there is a push for the state to continue that authorization until the public health emergency declared by the governor is no longer in existence. So that was one of the pieces of legislation that we're going to be writing our legislators about to say, on behalf of all of the Hamilton County Municipal Leagues, you need to, members, we want to continue this. The second issue, and why they're coming up together, is because at least one member of the state legislature has expressed a desire to link these two pieces of legislation together, even though they're not really related, is the issue with regard to income tax collection upon non-resident employees, non-resident employees who are currently working from home for the sole reason of the pandemic. So obviously we triple our population on any given day here in Sharonville. So obviously we have a lot of people that come to work in Sharonville but don't live within the city. And that is our bread and butter. That's how we support all of our services. That's how we build our infrastructure. That's how we're able to do the things that we need to do for the businesses that are located here, as well as our residents. So early on, during the pandemic, the state legislature said, Employers, you still need to withhold to your place of business earnings tax for those who are working from home. Even though they're not coming into your business in Sharonville and they're working from home, you still need to withhold and provide to the cities. There is a push to end that, to repeal that. And so, again, Hamilton County Municipal League is going to be sending information to our legislators to encourage them to maintain this current course. And part of that, and the big piece of that that matters to us, because the argument from the other side is, well, these are people who are working from home. So the justification for us as a city to use their tax dollars is no longer there because they're not coming into the city anymore. Our answer to that is, well, that would make sense if your intention is they're going to permanently work from home. I don't think that's the case yet for a lot of these folks. I think a lot of these folks intend to return to work. And if their intention is to return to Sharonville, we still have to maintain the roads, the infrastructure. We got to make sure that we have the police and fire presence in order to take care of those buildings so that they're still there when these employers return to work at the end of this pandemic, once we finally get through this time. So that's the communication that we're going to be sharing with them. I would expect that we'll probably be requesting some resolution from all of you, probably that will be for your next law committee, to also present something formally as an entity toward our state legislators to say why these two issues are important to us right now during this public health emergency. As much as I wish that this was coming to an end soon, I don't see that. My crystal ball is a little murky. Obviously, the governor is going to be making a big evening announcement tomorrow, if you haven't heard that. So who knows what that's going to be about. But we're obviously in a tough time right now. We've got a lot of positive cases, much more than what we have had for a long time, and our hospitals are starting to fill up. So it is an issue that we have to address as a city, and we're doing a great job doing it as a city and being responsible. And hopefully we can continue to get the support that we have seen thus far from our state legislators. Hopefully we can just remind them of how important this is to not just the large urban cities of Ohio, but also the suburban communities of Ohio that really do count upon those dollars to make things run for our businesses and our residents. So that was a lot to share tonight, but that's all I have.
There you go. Does anyone have questions for the mayor this evening? Seeing none, we will go ahead and move on to Mr. Lucas.
Good evening. Just the legislation this evening. There are 4 pieces from your original agenda, plus 1 late delivery request. Scott will talk about ordinances 2020-49, which is an appropriation in advance piece of legislation, and ordinance 2020-53, which is finalizing the CARES Act budget. Chief Mousa, I believe, he is attending via Zoom tonight. He will talk about ordinance 2020-50E, which is a purchase of a new rescue engine, as well as an agreement with the village of Glendale for EMS services, which is 2020-52. And then Mark will talk about ordinance 2020-51, which deals with electronic collars on animals.
Good evening. First, I'll touch on ordinance 2020-48, amending the senior housing interfund loan repayment. This reduced the annual scheduled repayment from $100,000 to $20,000. I apologize. That is in here for first reading. All right, so that'll be read one time. I thought I did assume we had that changed to 3 readings, 30 days. We will need to finalize that at the next meeting. That'll be fine. Because it's really just by the end of the year.
Okay,
Ordinance 2020-49, amending appropriations for various funds and authorizing a transfer in advance from the general fund. Three things going on in this. There is a additional $16,000 for the 408 Gateway 75 TIF. The Gateway 75 TIF did a little bit better than expected. And we need to pass those dollars on to Princeton City Schools and the parcel holder. As we discussed at the budget meeting, section 2 and 3 there's a transfer of $41,000 to the convention center. To kind of go ahead and knock out the HVAC improvements that they wanted to make with CARES Act. Due to timing, we weren't going to be able to get those done in a time that would allow those to work for the CARES Act. So we wanted to go ahead and transfer those dollars over. And then there's a $400,000 advance to the convention center fund. This is to offset the budgetary concern of the 2021 budget that we discussed last Thursday. We're in a good place right now, the general fund, to facilitate this. And if we would try to put this into the 2021 budget, we would not be able to have a structurally balanced budget that we do now. And then the last piece that we mentioned, Ordinance 2020-53. This is the one that that came out just today that's at your table. This is there's a piece of paper behind, or there's a schedule behind this, a budget of the CARES Act. It sums it up rather well, because I know this has become very confusing with the very different buckets of money that we have going on. We have three sources of CARES Act dollars. They're in funds 247, 248, and 249. There's money from Butler County we received from the state. There's Hamilton County money that was a direct allocation from the feds to Hamilton County that we received. And then there's the Hamilton County money that was from the state as well. There was also interest earned on the state dollars because those have been in our account. We were required to earn interest on those. So what this is showing is between the three sources, we have $1,055,778.77 to spend of CARES Act dollars. The reason to keep these things in separate buckets based on these separate sources, it's actually to, if there is a question or concern about an expenditure, it quarantines it, so to speak. So we don't have to tell everybody that the whole $1 million isn't a problem. It would just be the one column. You can see the personnel cost budgeted. The 247 and 248 funds are going to be allocated entirely to personnel services. Those will go actually to safety salaries. The 249 one, that's been the biggest pocket of money, and also the one we've been working with all summer here as we work to spend and do these activities. We spent a little over $15,000 on advertising for safe reopening. That was one of the things named from the state that was allowable for convention centers and chambers to spend money on how they were going to reopen and reopen safely. That's helped with a lot of the mailings and advertising we've done since June. The Small Business COVID Relief Fund, we were successfully able to award $147,500 on that. Thanks. It was a big piece of the work that Jim Doughton has done on the CARES Act for us, overseeing that. Also thanks to Shelley that assisted him, Anna that helped review a lot of the applications. A lot of work and communications gone into that. And then COVID supplies. This is a kind of a laundry list of things, whether it would be PPE, cleaning equipment, some HVAC improvements that we're proposing at the new police station, some sanitization being done professionally in the rec center, and also in some police areas. So when you back out the appropriations that we have done to date, which we had about $764,000 of appropriations approved to date, what this means is we needed to appropriate the remaining $290,000, $156,000 in the 247 fund, 134,000 in the 249 fund. So on the ordinance, we appropriate all of the $247 in personnel cost. We actually had to reduce what we've previously approved for non-personnel services in the 249. And so the net of those two numbers is the $134,000 I mentioned. So I was hoping that the worksheet here was more informative than the who's on first version of the CARES Act, which is another way to explain it. So any questions about those?
Doesn't look like there's any questions. Thank you. Chief Mousa, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to discuss the 2020 50E for requesting the purchase of a new rescue engine to replace our current engine 87, which is a 2009 Spartan chassis. At this point, we're ready to order. And the way this would work is we could prepay and save about $20,000 on the cost of the engine itself if we're to approve that this evening. And also operate using a Sourcewell purchasing collaborative, which is actually gives us another little bit bigger discount than what the traditional Ohio SDS pricing does. At this point, if it's approved, we'll order in probably early December and expect delivery somewhere in early fall. Right now, the cost is right about $740,000, and that is should be about all in.
Are there any questions?
Yep.
You're good to go.
Okay. The other item is the Glendale EMS service contract. And I was approached by the chief of Glendale to discuss providing EMS services to their community, which have traditionally been performed by the city of Springdale. This would allow us to basically perform about a transport every 2 days out of the village of Glendale for their residents. The benefit to the city of Sharonville is that we would obtain all of the revenue from the EMS billing of that, which historically right now is averaging about $55,000 a year. And the benefit from that, if this continues year to year, would actually, that revenue alone would pay for our ambulances as the rotation comes up. So that's kind of a benefit. The only downside is we do make a transport out of the village of Glendale every 2 days, which really with our run volume being well over 3,000, it's not even really going to make a blip on the radar for services of the city of Sharonville.
Are there any questions regarding that? I don't see any, Chief Mousa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just like we've got wireless headphones now, they also have leashless leashes. That's hard to say. Leashless leashes, where you can put a collar on a dog and you've got a little buzzer or electronic device in your hand, and they are supposed to work just as good as a chain, but they don't always do it. What's more concerning, I know we've had some contact from some citizens, is that if you're walking on the sidewalk with a dog on a leash and someone's approaching you with a very aggressive looking dog and you don't see a leash attached to that dog, it causes a lot of concern for people. So the request was put the law committee to amend. We currently have a leash law that requires when you're walking a dog to have a leash, but we really don't define what a leash is. So what this ordinance does is specifically say that a leashless or a electronic collar with a remote device does not cut it. That if you're going to walk a dog, you have to have it secured with a chain or some type of material leash. So that's the purpose of this. It was presented to law committee. and they unanimously recommended going forward with this change in our code. Again, we currently require a leash. This is just to really define that a leash doesn't include an electronic leash.
Thank you. Are there any questions about that? Thank you. Is that all? Okay. For my report this evening, I would really like to introduce the gentleman from the VFW, if you would like to come up. We did do our resolution this evening, so tomorrow is your day in our city. The police will still give you a ticket. It ain't really that big of but we would like for you guys to come up and just really, we want to thank you for your service, for being in Sharonville for 75 years. I know you're closed right now, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be opening back up sometime soon and in our city. So we just really want you to know that we're very happy you're part of our community. We love our partnerships that we've always had with you. And if you would like to come up and say anything, you're welcome to. Don't fight over it. Annette will talk if you don't want to.
You got to at least come up and talk about. Got to at least come up and talk about the gift you brought us tonight.
Yeah, Annette will talk if you don't want to.
Truth, she will. Thank you for the resolution. That was so humbling. We're happy to have 75 years in Sharonville, and we are temporarily closed. It's just a temporary setback.
That's right.
As we assess our current building situation. We did bring a gift. We were cleaning out for the city of Sharonville. Hopefully you can use it in the manner in which it could properly be displayed where it wasn't at our post. So hopefully you guys can use that.
Thank you very much.
Again, thank you so much. The resolution was very humbling. We want to give back to the city in which we're a part of. I would like to apologize for us not doing that in the past. In the past couple of months, we have given back to the Princeton Closet and the Sharonville Food Pantry. And Mike Cheney, who does so much for the families during the holidays, we're giving back to them. We've given back to the FOP. So our goal as the new leadership here is to get more involved into the city to where we was when we first started 75 years ago. And we're making progress with that. But again, we're temporarily closed right now.
Right.
We're going to be part of this city for another 75 years. And that's what we have to assure that we're going to do. How can we assure that we're going to be around for 75 years? But again, thank you so much for the resolution. It was very humbling. It really was. So, and some of us will plan to be out there at the Patriots Point tomorrow for that Veterans Day. So
Perfect.
So thank you so much.
So much. We appreciate you coming in. And I will tell you, you don't have to sit and agonize through the rest of this meeting if you have somewhere else you would like to go. I appreciate you coming. Thank you. Bye, ladies. And that's really all I have for my report this evening. I will go to the Clerk of Council, Mrs. Buhite.
Thanks, no report.
Thank you. Our Law Director, Mr. Pietmeyer. Thank you. And Mr. Pietmeyer, thank you for your service. I believe you are now currently our only veteran on council, so really appreciate your service. And happy birthday to the Marines in honor of Al Ledbetter. So, he would remind us today. It's an opportunity now for residents to be heard this evening. If you'd like to be heard, you can come on up to the microphone, give us your name and address, and feel free to talk.
My name's Forrest Lindsay. I live up on Thornview, 10492. And just a quick question. You took out the parking on Creek Road across from St. Michael's Church.
Mm-hmm.
That puts a hardship on the people that go to church, especially on Saturday nights and Sundays. And I really don't have any reason to tell them why you did that. So I'd like to know myself.
So I can address that. So first, there really hadn't been parking there for a long time. So I think part of the reason was as the lines washed away, people started parking there again. So it really hasn't been, regardless of what we did, and because we received that feedback about a month or so ago with regard to the parking there. So we looked at it and said, well, if it fits, if we have enough space there for a typical parking spot, we should allow there to be off-street parking there, just like we did anywhere else. However, what we discovered is when that portion of Creek Road was paved, and not just this time, but the last time it was paved, so we're going back several years. Before my mayorship, in fact, it was the previous mayor was in at that point. There was an error that was done, basically. And we paved a portion of land that doesn't belong to the city of Sharonville. It's not within our right-of-way. It's actually property that is owned by the folks that live there on Creek Road, on the other opposite side of the church. So it's not our land to be able to let people park on. And as a result, there's not enough curb area that is owned by the city of Sharonville for there to be legal parking there. And that's why that's why we went ahead and striped it the way that it was striped at this point, which had been striped previously, as well as having the signage that was up there before that. So I understand that perhaps that provides some difficulty. I don't know if, I'm down there a lot, so there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, maybe it's a little bit more of walking than what it would be if you're right across the street from the church, but there's ample parking lot spaces available throughout that downtown Sharonville region in order to get to church, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, and whatever masses that anybody's wanting to get to. But that is the reason why it's no parking. It's the property that we don't own as a city of Sharonville, and we certainly can't allow folks to park on private property. We don't have that ability to do.
So I can put a no parking sign on front of my house on Thornview Drive then?
Well, you don't, the street that is on Thornview Drive, we do have right of way. But yes, they can't park in your front yard.
I joined St. Michael's in September of 1971. I've been parking there ever since. Only one period of time, many years ago, when Virgil was the mayor, they put up no parking signs. And I came to the meeting as I did tonight. And he was the mayor, and he apologized to me before the meeting even started. Said that was a mistake. We'll take them down. And he did. Now, people are still parking there, but we're supposed to be Christians at St. Michael's, and we're really breaking the law if we're parking there.
That is correct. And that's all I can say. We break the law when we drive 70 miles per hour in a 65 mile per hour speed zone too. So the question is, I can't tell you that our police won't ticket you. It's not been their habit, but that's why. It is not property that belongs to us. There's not enough property on that road for us to legally give you a parking spot or off-street parking on Creek Road at that space.
Even though we've been doing it for 50 years.
There's not enough space for there to be, that's what we look for. Is there I forget what the dimensions are, Jim. Do you remember what the 9 foot by 20 ballpark? So if I need 9 feet width, 20 feet length for a parking spot, we do not have that much right of way on Creek Road that belongs to the city of Sharonville. And for us to create a parking spot to do that, because that's what we looked at. I said, if we're gonna allow parking here, it needs to be marked for it, so that it's done appropriately, so that people will know it actually is legal parking that takes place here. If this is the kind of stall we need to do it, do we have the space to do that? Because at the end of the day, we can't do that because we're now encroaching upon someone's private property rights. So either we need to purchase the property from that person if they're willing to sell it, or this is where we're at. So we can't encourage you or anyone else to park on something that doesn't belong to the city of Sharonville. You're welcome. Sorry, that's not the answer you want to hear.
And I don't see anyone else in attendance on the thing. We'll move on to our council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley.
I have no report. I was going to ask a question of the mayor before
Okay,
went
go
off.
ahead.
Something that Mr. Machine brought up. If that property owner was to approach the city, would they then be able to park there if that property owner was to say, you can park there?
We would have to have some kind of agreement with that property owner to do that. We had some discussions with folks as we went through this as to whether or not that was a desire that council wished for us to do. There was a conversation that we had with the property owner that lives along there. And I will say his desire would be there not to be parking there. If there is, then he wants us to take some responsibility over maintenance of certain property that exists along that line that I don't know I want to take responsibility for as a city. However, if you as council wish us to explore that option and invest taxpayer dollars to expand parking on Creek Road, we certainly will take direction from you to do that. It was our position in consultation with some of you who have expressed an interest or discussion with regard to this issue, is that there was and there is ample parking in that downtown Sharonville area to accommodate residents as well as St. Michael's, as well as Sharonville Elementary, as well as our downtown businesses, that the investment of additional money or manpower to provide that off-street parking along Creek Road, which I think even if we were to have enough spaces would be, you remember how many that was? Maybe about 5?
Maybe a little bit more with the fire hydrant, but it wasn't.
Like 8 or 9 parking spots along Creek Road. Just wasn't worth the expense and the manpower that would be required to do so.
Okay.
But again, if
I just
it's
figured
something,
I'd ask because Mr. Machine, how it was brought, that same question was brought up that George brought up too. That's why I figured I'd ask.
yeah, no, I mean, so we did have those conversations with that property owner. We also, obviously that property owner is the former mayor. So we figured he would have some history. He did, and certainly shared it. And what I shared with him was what probably happened that last time around was they messed up because they paved something they weren't supposed to pave. And so as a result of that, I think he decided, being the mayor, with a little bit of, being embarrassed.
I think he
it's
was
like
very embarrassed that
they
it happened
screwed up.
to him.
That he's like, well, okay, I don't have really a choice here. Unfortunately, he's not, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, he's not the mayor anymore. So he's a private person and a private entity who owns private property. And just like you or anybody else, we have to respect those private property.
St. Michael's could reach out to him though, and possibly even purchase the property yourself.
Ironically, we own the property, we sold it.
I know the history. So yes, unfortunate. And that may be something, I know his concern was being able to get the larger lawnmowers and trailers in and out. If you saw all the stuff that they had out over the weekend, putting up their Christmas displays and stuff like that, they have tractors and big trailers and things like that. They just want to be able to get their stuff in and out. So I'm not sure he would sell the whole thing. I'm not going to speak for him. But that might be something that maybe St. Michael's would want to reach out to him too. Yeah, he was very upset I remember that when they did pave it, he was extremely upset because the engineers messed up and that should never have been paved. And like you said, it was your old property. So reach out to him. Maybe he might be willing to work something out with you guys. Are there any other? That's it? All right, community services, Mr. Lippard.
Yeah, one microphone and the ordinance on this kind of screen. We canceled our meeting on November 4th. It was scheduled due to illness, and so I had to report.
Okay, that's fine. I'm glad to see you back amongst us. Thank you. Budget and finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. No report.
Okay, thank you. Honored citizens, Mrs. Knight.
Yes, I have a little report. I'd like to honor all the veterans that live in Sharonville. And I have a little information. I don't know if you know why Veterans Day is always on November 11th. It's because that was the day World War I ended on November 11th at 11 o'clock. So that's why they choose that to keep that as Veterans Day, not like a Monday holiday or anything like that. And that's it. That's my report.
Thank you. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. The next Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be on November 17th in the council chambers at 4 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Rule suspensions. Before we do that, we do have a late delivery to accept of ordinance 2020-53. Is there a motion to accept? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Lippert. All those in favor to accept late delivery, say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no, and we will accept that late delivery. Rule suspension motion for first and only reading with immediate effectivity. Ordinance 2020-49, 2020-50, 2020-53, 2020-R26. First and only reading with 30-day effectivity is ordinance 2020-51, 2020-52. And we'll go into unfinished business, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion for that? Because after I read all that. So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? See none. All those in favor, yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Now we can go into unfinished business.
Okay. This is a second reading of Emergency Ordinance 2020-38E, directing the filing of verified petitions to appropriate various fee simple interests with reservation of access, standard highway easements, and temporary easements as a quick take for the public purpose of improving Hawk Road, a public roadway open to the public without charge in the city of Sharonville, Hamilton County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. But that's just a second reading.
Okay.
And the second reading of ordinance 2020-42, authorizing the safety service director to enter into a contract with CT Consultants to provide engineering and site plan review for calendar year 2021 and approving CT Consultants 2021 fee schedule. And that's just a second reading. And that's all of the unfinished business.
And we'll move on to new business, please.
Okay. First reading of ordinance 2020-48, amending senior housing interfund loan repayment. First and only reading of ordinance 2020-49, amending 2020 appropriations for various funds and authorizing a transfer and advance from the general fund.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-49? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert? Mr. Duda? Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-49 has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2020-50E, authorizing the safety service director to enter into a contract for the purchase of a new rescue pumper unit and to dispose of a 2009 Spartan chassis unit and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass 2020-53E? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert? Mr. Duda? Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-50E has been approved. First and only reading of ordinance 2020-51, amending Sharonville Municipal Code Section 505.01.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-51? So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert, Mr. Duda, Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt. Ordinance 2020-51 has been approved. First and only reading of ordinance 2050, mark, huh? 2020-52. I got it. Ordinance 2020-52, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an emergency medical services agreement with the Village of Glendale, Ohio.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-52? So moved by Mr. Duda, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert, Mr. Duda, Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-52 has been approved. First and only reading of ordinance 2020-53, amending 2020 appropriations for various funds.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2020-53? So moved by Mr. Duda, second by Mr. Lippert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Lippert, Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mrs. Knight,
Yes.
and Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-53 has been approved, and that's that.
All right. It's another opportunity for residents that wish to be heard. I still see no one participating. Are there other matters that wish to be heard this evening? Mr. Duda?
Yes, I'd just like to bring up three things quickly. Last week I got to participate go to the Sharonville Cultural Arts Center where they had their Art North finalists win some awards for their great art. But I learned that over 50 residents from Sharonville, Southwest Ohio, and more come into that Cultural Arts Center. So it's a big gem into our city, and I'm glad that it's still thriving, doing well despite the pandemic. A lot of people showed up. And then two other items I'll like to discuss. This week, the Ohio Municipal League Conference is taking place, and due to Jim inviting us, I got to participate in that, and it's virtual this year, so we don't have to go to Columbus, and I learned a lot, and yesterday got to speak with the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, about COVID-19 was the main topics discussed, but learned about different things that impact our city, such as the BWC dividend, the CARES Act, different things related to COVID and upcoming legislation and happenings. And the other item I'd like to discuss is on December 5th, the Shop with the Cop. I'm glad that Dana, our resource officer, reached out to us that we can volunteer at that event and contribute towards that, because I was pleased because in October when the Sharonville Chamber had a event at the convention center bringing all the nonprofits together, that's one that I wanted to participate in, and I'm glad we all have the opportunity to do that, and several of us have signed up and contributed, and it's a great thing our police and community do for residents of need and others in the community. So I wanted to highlight that. And that will take place on December 5th at the convention center. And we can still sign up and help with that event. And Dana reached out to us as elected, but others are allowed to as well. So if you want to, you can reach out to Dana Taggart at the Sharonville Police Department.
Thank you, Shia. Anything else? Seeing nothing else, is there a motion for adjournment? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Lippert. All those in favor, yes? Those opposed, no. And we stand adjourned.